Hi, this is Marsha.
And this is Kelly.
We are the 2U's of 2U's Fiber Adventures. Thanks for stopping by.
You'll hear about knitting, spinning, dyeing, crocheting, and just about anything else we can think of as a way to play with string.
We blog and post show notes at 2usfiberadventures.com.
And we invite you to join our 2U's Fiber Adventures group on Ravelry. I'm 100 Projects.
And I am Better in Motion.
We're both on Instagram and Ravelry, and we look forward to meeting you there.
Enjoy the episode. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning, Marsha.
Guess what it's doing here? Or what it did overnight?
Rain?
Snowed.
Really?
Yes.
That's cool. Or is it?
No, it's fine. It's not. The roads are completely clear. It's just more of a dusting of snow.
Mm-hmm.
But I took Enzo out last night for his, his final, as I call it, his final leg lift of the night before he go to bed. And I was like, okay, it was super cold and it was raining, but the rain kind of felt kind of stinging,
yeah,
it wasn't soft rain. It was kind of like a little hard things hitting me kind of.
Starting to be ice.
Yeah. And I kind of thought, that kind of feels like it could. And then I woke up this morning and we have a dusting of snow.
Oh, that's cool.
But a very light dusting, but still some snow. It's still, I'm looking out, it's still on the neighbors' roofs and it's off the trees now, but it's on the lawn and whatnot. So anyway, kind of exciting.
Yeah, that is cool. I'm sitting in a patch of sunlight at my desk in the spare room, and this patch of sun is pretty nice and warm, but it's interesting. I'm leaving for Florida on Sunday, and Orlando is supposed to be something like 58 degrees and rainy on Sunday. Like, that's terrible. But then the next day it's back in the high 60s and then in the low 70s for most of the time that I'm there.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I did hear that they were having cold weather, just the whole East Coast. There was a cold spell. But
I was kind of surprised to see that. I mean, that I won't get there until Sunday evening. So, it's not really gonna. It's not like I'm going to be there. The whole first day is going to be freezing cold. And honestly, when you go and you have a conference and you stay most of the time in the hotel, you're freezing cold. It doesn't really
matter what it's doing.
Yeah, you're freezing cold anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
They make the temperature of hotels to meet the needs of men who wear an undershirt, a dress shirt, and a suit jacket. Right?
Okay. Seriously, who wears suits anymore? Do they wear suits?
Sometimes some of the conferences that I go to, yes, depends on how dressy they are. This one, I don't know how dressy it will be, but the administrators that I work with, the administrators at school, they wear suits.
Oh, really? Okay. You have to remember, I live in the Pacific Northwest, where our uniform is polar fleece and. I mean, that's sort of the joke about business.
Yeah.
Here is that it's always a polar fleece vest and a North Face jacket.
Yeah.
That's business.
Does it actually depend on the business though? Because you have a lot of tech.
I think because it's tech. I think that if you
like at the bank, that's probably not what they're wearing.
The bank tellers, I don't think wear suits. That I've seen.
Right, but the bank,
if you talk to an actual banker, they might have a suit on. Yeah. And I think attorneys,
Yeah.
Every attorney I've ever talked to, and fortunately not too many, but they're always in suits.
Yeah. I had to laugh when we had the dinner at the law firm, Tracy's husband's law firm, and your comment in the guest book or whatever, the card that we signed.
Oh, yes.
The most fun you've ever had in an attorney's office.
Yes, because you're not having fun at an attorney's office.
Right.
Yeah. Most people, it's wills and probably prenups and divorces.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's not.
Estate planning and then estate wrap up too. Mm-hmm. So anyway, well, off of that topic, we won't go down that rabbit hole about I was going to say, since you were talking about your trip, do you want to just mention the dates that you're going to be there? And
yeah, I'm going to be there the 19th through, really the 19th through the 21st, because I'm coming home. I'm arriving on the 18th, and I'm coming home on the 22nd. So the 19th through the 21st. I think I have quite a bit of. I started looking at the program, and I think I have the day. The conference doesn't start until late in the day on Monday, so I'll have some free time on Monday to, take a nap if I need to, the jet lag thing, and or just recover from the flight. I'm not sure there's going to be any place that I can just walk around and have some outside air, but because you don't get much of that in a conference either.
No.
Although, so I am going to say, I have a friend, Cheryl, who you've met, who every conference I've gone to with her, if the weather is nice, she would find at least 20 minutes somewhere in the conference to go sit by the pool. And like that never occurred to me. All the conferences I went to where I felt so trapped inside, it never occurred to me that I could, if they have an outdoor pool, that I could go and sit by the pool. Like, oh, when she did that, I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. Just get a little bit of outside air and you don't have to, it's not like you have to go out where people are smoking. Like sometimes if you go out the front doors of the hotel, there's a little area where people are smoking. That's not pleasant. There's not a lot of places to escape outside in some hotels. And so that was a trick that I learned from her. Like, oh, I can always escape to the pool. If they have an outdoor pool, I can escape to sit by the pool for a few minutes. So anyway, my trip should be pretty fun, but I'll talk in the projects about what I'm doing. I have decided what I'm bringing, so that's good. That's always a relief. I haven't gotten it started yet. I have to get it started. Okay, this is just dumb. Why does what project to bring and whether it's in the right place become an added stress to the preparations for a trip? That's just dumb.
No, it's not, Kelly, because I understand. Okay, so I am, for example, right now I'm knitting on my sock, and I measured this morning and I have like another inch to knit before I have to start the heel flap. But I'm going to do the heel flap in a different color. And I was sort of thinking to myself, do I really try and power through? So when we're recording, I already have the heel flap started, or do I just like try to do the heel flap, start that part while we record? So yeah, there's a time and place for starting projects. Like on the plane, maybe you don't want to have to try something on the plane. Right.
Yeah.
So
pick up stitches is probably not the best. Like pick up sleeve stitches, probably not good to do on the plane. And it's going to be it's a long flight. I'm flying from Monterey, which is good. I go from Monterey to Phoenix, and then from Phoenix to Orlando. So, and I think I've done this flight before. Long time ago. But anyway, it's going to be, both of those are going to be kind of long stretches. So, and my hat is at the point where I'm about ready to do the crown decreases on. Well, I'll go ahead and start my projects. How's that?
You might as well, because
we're talking about it.
Naturally segued into it. Yes.
So, my hat, this is a sock head slouch hat by Kelly McClure is the pattern. Very famous pattern, lots of projects made. I've made several of these. I've also made the sockhead cowl, which I like, which I could actually just turn this into a sockhead cowl if I wanted to. But I think I'll make it into a hat. So I have about 9 inches of ribbing, which is not called for in the pattern, but it's really nice. I thought it was called for in the pattern, but turns out not. And then I've got almost that much of the hat part. And I think it's the hat part that you can tell I'm not knitting according to the pattern. I don't even have the pattern with me. But I think it's actually the hat part that is 9 inches. And I've got almost the same 9 inches in the hat and then I'll start the crown decreases. So this would definitely get finished if I take this with me. I'll finish it on the trip, and I don't want to finish it on the plane. So
yeah.
So that became sort of an issue of what I'm going to do. And then I have big, huge news to report about all of my squares.
Okay.
So the last episode, I think I was still weaving squares with all the new yarn that I got from Aline. I think that's where I left off. Well, I finished that. I finished that last week. I don't know, early last week. Maybe I finished it a few days after we recorded. And so then I sewed up all the rest of the squares. So I got into strips. So I got 20 strips. Actually, I got 19 full strips and one strip of 13 squares. So I had to weave one additional square. I thought that was pretty interesting that I only needed to weave one additional square because I wasn't counting them as I was doing them. I was just doing them. And then I got done with most of the smaller balls of yarn. And there were some balls of yarn that were much bigger, and I knew I didn't want to have that much of that color. So I got to a point where I thought I had enough to just start doing strips again. And I got to 20 strips, and I wove one more square, and I had 20 strips that were 14 squares long. So my blanket, I decided, is going to be 14 squares wide by 20 squares long, which puts it, I said in my project page, I think it puts it at about 4 foot by 5.5 foot.
Okay.
Roughly. I mean, it's hard, yarn is stretchy, so.
That's a nice size.
I think so. Yeah. It's not blanket size. It's not like you're going to tuck it in around the edges of a mattress. It's not that size, but it's a good size to put on the couch. And Betty saw it and she said, "Oh, I could use that." So I might just give it to her. I like the way it's coming out, and it's actually, the strips are now being sewn together, and I've got 3 strips fully sewn together, and 4 strips are sewn together, all but 3 squares. And I'm sewing the strips together, not end to end, like starting at one end of the strip and just sewing across. I'm using the tails. So like I'll find a tail, and so with that yarn tail, I'll sew that square to another square, and then I'll find the next tail, and so sometimes I'm sewing the squares together, left to right. Sometimes I'm sewing them right to left. It just depends on where the tail is. Now, of course, I'm not sewing in different directions. I turn the thing around, so I'm always sewing from right to left because I'm right-handed.
Right.
But I'm sewing them square by square. So I've got a gap in the middle with no tails that has 3 squares that I have to do. But I like it. I like the way it feels. I like the thickness of it. I was a little bit worried about how thin it seemed. But I like the hand. It's nice, even though I was a little worried about the fingering weight. I don't know why. Barry is barking, but anyway. So I'm enjoying this project. It's a lot of fun. It's really addictive. It's not going to be a unfinished object waiting to happen. It's been really fun. And so far I've been able to take and just like grab a strip that included some of Aline's yarn, the new yarn, and then grab a strip that I originally knitted or originally wove from my scraps. And I've been able to put them together so that there's no two colors side to side. Sometimes the same color is diagonally touching, which is fine. But, and I'm hoping I can be able to do that all the way along. I'm going to try not to get to the end and have one strip left and no way to put it on the blanket without having two squares in the same place. So I'll have to do a little bit of planning when I get closer to the end. But for right now, it's working pretty well. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well, and I have to say, Kelly, because I'm looking at your Ravelry page and for this project, and you started it October 22nd, and you said, maybe I'll make them into a blanket. Because you're just making the squares. You didn't know what you were going to do. Made the comment, maybe I'll make them into a blanket. Maybe that is way too ambitious. Right now I'm making squares. We'll figure that part out later. And that was just October.
Yeah, it's been fast.
I mean, you're close to done. You know, I mean, you're at the point where you're sewing them together. So
yeah, so let's pretend that all four strips were totally sewn together. That's 20% of the way done, sewing up my squares. So I don't have much left to go at all. And this actually would be a really good project to bring with me, like for in the hotel room, except it takes up too much space and I don't want to use up suitcase space for it. Yeah,
packing a blanket on the plane.
Yeah.
Too much.
And it's not like the kind of thing where you can just bring one, like you have your blanket just barely started and you only need to bring one skein of yarn. It's not like that. It's a basket full of these strips and I don't want to pack that. So, but I'm really happy with it. The seams are sometimes look messier than others. I think it kind of depends on the structure of the yarn, because some of the yarns that were the more loosely spun, like the Vesper sock, when you attach those to a yarn that's more tightly spun, you can kind of see the jagged edge of the loops, because you're basically figurating one set of loops to another set of loops. And so you can see them like zipper teeth, The closer the yarn is to the same texture, the better the seaming looks. You don't get that zipper effect. But, it's a little messy. The seaming is a little messy, but again, some of that might block out. And when you put the whole thing together, I mean, it's a mess of color. So you're not going to notice the messy seams so much because it's just all this color, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Great project. Super fun.
Yeah, I think it's fun. And I have that that loom that makes hearts. And I think I might make maybe one or maybe 3 hearts and just put them on top of a square somewhere. Just a couple. One. Well, probably not an even number. Probably an odd number. Like 1 or maybe 3. And just kind of randomly stick them somewhere, especially if I decide to give it to Aunt Betty.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. And then, let's see, what's my other project? Oh, I told you about my sock head hat already, so that's fine. I was looking up the punk rock unicorn to put it into the show notes, the link, and I didn't realize that Punk Rock Unicorn is a German company. The website is all in German, so you can. Oh, okay. If you click the link, you can you can translate it, and then they sell it in different yarn stores. But I thought that was interesting. I did not realize that. I thought it was just I just assumed it was a U.S. indie dyer, but it's not. It's a German yarn company. Okay. It looks like a pretty big, a pretty good size German yarn company. So I thought that was cool. So I have my project ready, thinking of trip knitting, getting back to that discussion. I have my project ready. So I have 2 yarns. I got a gift from someone at work. We got a new administrator, and when I first met her, I found out she was a knitter. And so I brought her a skein of the yarn that cotton yarn that we dyed for making dishcloths.
Oh, right.
So I brought her a skein of that, and said, "Oh, welcome, and it's nice to have a knitter on, as a colleague. And here's some yarn that you can make dishcloths with." And she said, "Oh, I don't think I'm going to make dishcloths with it. I think I'll make a little neck scarf, little small neck scarf, like a Sophie scarf or something."
Oh, yeah.
And I said, "I don't know if there's enough yarn for it. Go for it if that's what you want. But really, I think this is a good yarn for dishcloths." Anyway.
Well, I think it'd be kind of rough, wouldn't it, around your neck? I don't know, but
I think so. Anyway.
Yeah.
You know how people are about, "Oh, this is so, you made that, you dyed this. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't want to put it into a dishcloth that then I'll just, wear out and throw away." So
is it okay to touch it? That's the other.
Yeah. So I had given her that. So then our college is belonging to something called Achieving the Dream. We're an Achieving the Dream school in the class of 2023, I think it's called. I think that's the year. So it's a cohort of colleges that are working with this company that has coaches to help the college be better, do better, right? Institutional effectiveness. So she went with a group of faculty to this same conference that I'm going to last year when she first arrived, and brought me home a skein of yarn. It was in Milwaukee. The conference was in Milwaukee. So because I had given her a gift of yarn, she brought me home. She said, "Oh, I brought you some souvenir yarn." So she brought me home a skein of stitch stuff yarn, which she had gone into a yarn shop and said, she wanted to buy something local. So this is a local indie dyer, local to wherever the conference was, the Achieving the Dream conference was in Milwaukee last year. And it's blue and orange, not dark orange, kind of a dirty peach color. Well, you know how the blue kind of dampens the rusty color or the, orange color. So kind of a dirty peach and blue. And then I had a skein of blue that I had bought at Stitches when I was buying all that sock yarn in 2020. Well, it would have been last year, 2023. 2023. I was on a mission to buy, enhance my stash of sock yarn. So I bought Invictus Yarns, Master of My Feet, in the colorway New Jeans, which is actually not the color of really actual new jeans. It's not that dark indigo blue color. It's more of a faded jeans color. It's a paler blue. Yeah, kind of a medium blue. Anyway, they match perfectly. It was one of those things where I got the skein, the gift skein. I brought it home. I put it in the basket. One day I was just kind of rearranging things, and the 2 things happened to come together. And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to use these together." So I'm going to use them together in the shawl called the Drifter. And I actually bought the pattern. It's been in my library for maybe 6-8 months. And it's a pattern by Tammy Gore, Narrow Path Designs. And it's basically a 2-color or 3-color. I'm going to do the 2-color version. It's a 2-color shawl, asymmetrical triangle, stripes, a little bit of slip stitch work. So I think it'll be perfect for the trip because it won't be difficult knitting.
I'm looking at the pattern. That's nice.
Yeah, I like it. I like her patterns. In fact, when I went to get the link to the Drifter for the show notes, I started looking through her patterns again, And I actually have 2 of them on her page, in her collection that I think I might. I'm at the stage, Marsha. You know how I haven't really had nothing. My projects have been 1 or 2 projects, and I really haven't had anything like in line. I had talked about making dark academia, and I have the base color. I don't have the contrast color in my stash. I'd been talking about what I was going to do, but all of a sudden I feel like now I have like a lineup of things I'm excited to start. So that's kind of a nice feling. So there's 2 colorwork sweaters in her portfolio that I think are in my, I didn't put them in my queue, but in my head, they're in my queue. One is called London Dusk, and it's a long sleeve sweater. And maybe that's what I should do with, maybe that's, instead of dark academia, maybe that's what I should do with my sweater quantity of the Knockers yarn from last year. And it's a kind of a dark blue, more like what I think of as jeans blue. And it's in the Luxe base. So it's got a dark overcast to it. It's overdyed over a yak silk. So yak is kind of a grayish brown and then dyed over that, I think. So I would still need a contrast color, and I don't know what contrast color I would want to use, but I like the ones that are not so contrasty. When I looked at the project pages, it just has a really nice, I don't know, I just really like the color work. It's just interesting.
Yeah, they're both really nice.
It looks more like abstract. Kind of like pixels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, there's some of the Japanese designer patterns that have little flowers all over them, and then they just kind of disperse. It reminds me of that, but it's a little more regular than those. But yeah, looking through the projects, I like the ones that are not so. The ones I like the best are the ones that are not so contrasty. The one that really caught my eye was the very first one on the pattern page, and it's a light background with a darker contrast. So that might not. So I might want to do that instead of use the dark background with the sweater quantity.
There's another one here. I don't think this is what you want to do, but I just think it's interesting. It's like a dark on the project page. Lindsay Max, London Dusk. She did a test knit, and it looks like it's like a dark blue, a navy blue, but then the color work is like a gradient. She used a spin cycle, so it's not really like it starts pink and it turns to like green and yellow, and then it goes back to pink. It's kind of interesting.
Okay,
but
I see.
A lot of these are nice. They're nice because they have made it quite. Not high contrast.
Yeah.
It's a nice look.
Yeah, there are a couple one is a bright pink and then a very light variegated. That's so contrasty that I don't think I'll like it. So yeah, I'm looking at these and I really like them. And I think I'd like to make this sweater. It only has 14 projects. So, and maybe it's a little bit new.
This says first published June 2023.
Oh.
Page created June 1st.
Okay.
2023.
All right.
Down at the bottom.
Oh, okay. And this is a longer sleeved sweater. And I like that. That's why I was thinking of that larger sweater quantity that I have. But the other pattern of hers that kind of intrigued me is the one called Trelawney. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. Trelawney top. It's a short sleeve sweater and it has looks like it has kind of the wider neckline that I like. I had thought about making one of the sweaters that I have that I like is the Rachel sweater, but the neckline on the Rachel is not my favorite neckline. It's kind of deep in the front. not super deep, but it's narrow and deep. Whereas this one is kind of wide. And I like the color work on this one too. It looks like little feathers, kind of upside down feathers to me. But again, the thing that caught my eye was the top one. I don't know, it just doesn't look very contrasty. It's a dark gray and a yellow, but the gray has kind of has like a speckle or something in it. It's not a solid gray. And so the yellow and the gray kind of mix together in some of the pieces of those little feathers. So, and then like the light gray and burgundy, or light gray and rust one that's on this pattern page, very contrasty. You can see the feathers really clearly. You can see the design really clearly. That's not my favorite. So I'm liking both of those sweaters. It's a short sleeve sweater. I don't know if you should do color work not with wool though. I was thinking, maybe I could do it with the dance rustic silk or something as a summery, a more like spring, summer, warmer weather sweater.
I did a cotton color work sweater.
You did?
10 million years ago.
Oh.
Yes, I did. 10 million years ago.
10 million years ago. Okay.
When I was a new knitter, because I now know so much. It was a cardigan that you knit. You were supposed to knit it in pieces, like the left front, the right front, the back, the sleeves. And the yarn shop owner said, you just knit it, the back and the fronts together at the same time, but not in the round, right? Because it's a cardigan. Right. So I had to do the color,
You had to do color work back and forth? Okay, that's just dumb.
Yes, I did. and I well, and because I didn't know about steeking.
Well,
and honestly, not to go down a rabbit hole on this, Kelly, but I don't know. I mean, I guess you can steek a cotton sweater. I mean, but wool is so much more forgiving, right?
Yeah, if you're gonna steek a cotton sweater, you have to use a sewing machine to stitch the edges down.
But I didn't know anything, and I didn't know how to do color work. As like I said, my snowflower that I did, that's where I really I need to just learn how to do this. And I did. I asked people and I watched videos and I practiced. But that one, I didn't know what I was doing. So every time I would change colors, I would drop one yarn, pick up the other yarn. And let me just say too, we've talked about this, but it was when I first learned to knit in the mid 80s, when the style was to have those huge sweaters. So the sweaters, I mean, I can't wear, and I always say, I am not smaller than I was in the 80s, but that thing is voluminous on me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I did color work back and forth on the Orca sweater, the Orcas Run, the couch and sweater, because as I was reading that's how the pattern was written. And I thought, well, maybe I'll do it in the round. But as I was reading the book that I bought about the history, it was very common for them to knit them back and forth and do the color work back and forth. So I did that. I did do that for a purpose, but I wouldn't do that. Yeah, I would.
Intentionally.
It wouldn't be my choice. It wouldn't be my choice just for any old knit. Yeah. Definitely not. So I'm excited to have some projects kind of like sitting out there. And honestly, I really don't have any stash in mind for the short sleeve sweater. Depending on, I'm thinking though, I have a burgundy, a nice kind of burgundy color, and then I have a hand spun variegated that might be nice for making that low contrast. You don't want it too low contrast though. That might be a little too low contrast. I'll have to play around. But
and I'm just gonna chime in here with a comment. Okay, now I've lost I'm now out of the page, but you have to find that balance. So some of them, I was looking at the sweaters, they have like variegated yarn for the body and variegated yarn for the color work. That's too much.
Yeah.
But like a little bit of variation in the body color, some tonal qualities, I think is nice. But if it's too much contrast in the tonal qualities, it looks very busy.
Yeah.
And then,
But not enough.
There
you don't want to do all that color work and then really not have it.
Right. And then some of them, the colors are the tone, like even though they actually are different colors, the tones are so similar that you can't see the pattern that much. So you have to find that balance of, like for when I was making the snowflower, I really liked the colors I had, but when I actually started putting them together, I had this like a turquoise aqua color, which I thought was beautiful with the sage green. But when you actually put them, like started working with them, you couldn't see the colors at all. They because they were too much alike.
Yeah.
So you have to find, color is very critical, and you have to find that balance of enough contrast that you can see it, but not so much that you're not getting that high contrast look that you don't want.
Right. Right.
It's challenging.
Yeah. And especially when you're using
but just a lot
more than one color.
Yeah.
You kind of, if you're using more than more than two colors, if you're using more than two colors, it's kind of like that blanket I made where it was a dark hand spun, and then I overdyed it so you could barely even tell the difference between the colors. I had to label them all. You know, and in that one really benefited from some high contrast to kind of draw your eye and your attention. So, that might trip me up. I don't want to say it might slow the process down, but it might slow the process down and trip me up. I thought, momentum is happening. Choosing the colors might not be good for the momentum. But anyway, those are two sweaters that by Tammy Gore, Narrow Path Designs, that I really like, and I think I'm going to pursue. And then, like I said, the shawl by her that I have for my trip knitting. And that's it for me.
Okay. Well, me, let's see. I have a finished project.
You do?
I stayed up late last night to finish this so I could actually announce I have a finished project. No, I finished the Malabrigo Nube Merino braids that I was spinning.
Oh, nice.
And they're done. I both plied. I did, and I've talked about how I did this, where I split the one braid into 10 pieces and then the second braid into 2 pieces. I think that I think all that work probably didn't really matter that much because there's not a lot of contrast between the colors on the braids. But it was an interesting technique. And you know what? I think it's very sort of uniform color, as maybe if I had just spun the braids and evenly, what am I trying to say? Had not done all of that color
just
management.
Just end to end.
They might have looked more stripy than this, but they were quite blended looking.
Oh, that's good.
Anyway, I have a little over 1,000 yards, and I believe, Kelly, it's lace weight.
Whoa,
maybe
Marsha.
It's fingering weight.
Nice.
It might be fingering weight. I'm not 100% sure. And I was laughing because when I was spinning this and saw how it's a 2-ply, how it turned out, remember when I first started spinning, I could not wrap my head around how you could spin lace weight or sock weight and make socks out of your hands. How do you make it that fine? And I did it. So it's pretty fine.
Nice.
So once I wash it, though, it might be different. We'll see. But anyway, that's done. Nothing else really to report on the socks that I started. I'm about ready to start the heel flap. And that's yarn from the Artful You. It's called Clackamas. But I don't know what the colorway is. But as I said, it's red, which I'm going to say something about color in a second. And then weaving. So I have to talk about weaving. So last Sunday, I thought I'm taking or not last Sunday, that was the Super Bowl. It was 2 Sundays, the Sunday before. I thought I'm going to take the whole day and just I've got the loom is warped and I'm ready to weave. And I put in the waste yarn and I discovered I had a mistake in the
threading.
Tabby. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I figured that out. I just crossed 2 threads, figured that out. So I was putting it in, and then there was a couple things. I figured out that I just realized I had 3 other mistakes in my threading. And then I had tied up the treadles to the heddles, and my shed was only like 1.5 inches. So that was an issue. Mm-hmm. And I have answers to all this now, but because we had a conversation. And then the other thing too is I had warped it based on a suggestion, not from you, because you told me what to do, Kelly. But I went and talked to somebody else who suggested I warp Rosepath, which I did. And then before I even realized I had my 3 other mistakes, I thought, I don't even know what the treadling is for Rosepath. And my understanding is Rosepath, like just in fact, I don't know. I put down the threading that I've done, which is, you starting from the right, it's 4, 3, 2, 1. It just keeps repeating that. Is that called a twill threading? What is that called?
4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. That's a straight draw.
Is it a straight draw?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you get this exact same effect going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's straight draw.
So, long story short, I pulled all of the warp out of the heddles. I put the lee sticks back in. And I just a side note, that Sunday I got really frustrated. And I thought, I need to go do something else. And I thought, I need to have something positive. So I called in to participate in the Zoom call that the Knockers retreat people have every Sunday. And all of my favorite people were there.
Nice.
So it was a great conversation. And Pat Eisner was on there. And she really helped me sort of understand what was going on. Mm-hmm. To a point. But then I thought, okay, I'll fix those mistakes and I'll I can start the treadling, but I could not find any instructions because my understanding is Rosepath, what I started to say is Rosepath, I guess, was supposed to be like a straight draw where there's many options.
It's a whole family.
Treadling.
Yeah. It's a whole family of weave structures. Mm-hmm.
I don't have a book about it on any of this. And I thought, I'll find it online. Everything's online. I can find the Do you think I could find any treadling patterns? I could see examples of Rosepath, the fabric, but nothing about what the treadling is. So we had a text conversation. You sent me some things. And then that Monday afterwards, we had a conversation. And that's when I decided, you know what? I'm pulling it all out and I'm just going to warp it with the straight draw.
You're going to do what I said from the beginning.
And I'm going to put that in here, straight draw, in my thing, so I remember what that's called. Yeah, because you were right. For a beginning weaver, I think it's good to do this straight draw because then you can really practice the throwing the shuttle and keeping your selvages nice and just get into the rhythm of it and not think so much.
And and learn what happens when you change your treadling.
Right.
Because the threading is so basic, you can learn all the things you can do when you change your you're treadling, and actually understand what it means. Understand what it means that there's a family, that something is a family of weave structures.
Yes.
Which right now you just have my word. You just have my word on it. Then.
Well, and I think that the person who suggested this did not understand that I'm a very, very new weaver.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually my third project.
Right.
I made 3 tea towels in class, and I've only made 2 tea towels on my own.
Right.
In a year.
Right. And
for reasons. And
the other thing that's true is that you wove from a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So okay, when you bake, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could take a recipe for a cake and follow actually everything it says and get that cake. But I don't understand what all of those ingredients do. Whereas like you have a lot of experience baking cakes. Mm-hmm. And so you understand what all the ingredients do because you have a lot of experience. Mm-hmm. And you know, like if I put in a little more of this, it's going to do that. And a little less of that, okay, that will happen. All I know is how to follow the exact recipe for baking.
Right.
Because I don't understand what's happening. And I think that's the difference. I mean, so you got to do a little bit of playing in your class, right? You did like a sampler at the beginning, the first day of your class, right? Before you did the tea towels? Where you did multiple structures and kind of, so like you got a small amount of time to kind of look at how everything works before you just started following a recipe. Mm-hmm. And now you get to play again and see how things work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope I'm not sounding too much like, I don't know, pedantic, like you must do it this way so you can learn.
No, and let me just say, I learned, already I learned. Okay. Say, because I kept saying to you, all of our conversations, Kelly, post weaving class. Well, in class they said, well, they told us in class, and then like everything, there are other ways, right? That's the way they do it, but that doesn't mean you have to do it that way. I mean, within reason. Okay. So like one of the things I learned is, if you, we were taught in class that, when you wind your warp, you don't want any knots on your warp, right? Which is true. Right. Okay. If you find the knot when you're warping, then you want to then move it someplace else, right? You don't want it in the middle of your warp. Yeah. I get that, but stuff happens, right? Or your thread breaks or something. And so there was what they had told us the way they told us to do it, which is basically you're just attaching, another thread and you pin it, and then the thread is really long and you have to weight it and it hangs off the back of the loom and all this kind of stuff. I watched the Jane Stafford video, and if you have a knot, you basically just leave the knot, weave past the knot, and then after you go past it 1 inch or 2 inches, you just take the thread, the same color thread, and you take a needle and you just weave it through. And then, so you have extra yarn sticking, and then when you wash that fabric, you just are going to cut the little poof that was the knot, cut that off, and then you have the thread in there repairing it. Yeah. And it will, when you wash it, it'll hold it all. It's like, that is so much easier than having all these threads hanging off the back of the loom. So anyway, just little things that, as in everything, there's all different kinds of way to cast on, all different kinds of way to bind off, there's all different ways of knitting in the round. And I mean, I don't know.
There's continental and...
Right. So
picking and throwing. I'm never sure which. I can't ever remember which one is which. But anyway, picking and throwing when you knit, and you can have heated conversations about which one is better. right? That can become a controversy, but whatever you like is what's better.
Yeah. So anyway, yesterday I finished threading all the heddles, and I checked everyone as I did it, and I think they're all correct. And now I have to thread them through the reed or slay the reed. And I may do that today after I walk the dog.
Cool.
I should be doing my taxes. But I have to get this done by March. So
yes. Some deadlines are more important than the IRS.
Yeah. And then also the shed, we had a good conversation too, because I tied those treadles to the little cables that are hanging down from the shafts. And I asked you, like, I can't even get the shuttle through, basically. And you said, well, it's too narrow. And so I think I have to do some tinkering, but I think that the treadles are too high. Mm-hmm. I think they need to be, they can't be too low, but they can't be too high. So I have to do some, as I say, all this stuff is very sort of organic, and you have to figure out, when we moved the loom, we took all of that apart because we took the treadles off or the pedals off or whatever. We took that off. So now I have to figure out how to put it back so that I get a larger shed. So anyway, that's where I am in the project. I do want to go back to the episode, the last two episodes where we talked about stripes. And all of the craziness in my mind about stripes. And then I was laughing last episode. In fact, I started laughing so hard again at the last episode about my insanity. But anyway, when I had the Zoom call with the Knockers ladies, our friend Tracy was making a blanket. And it was like a chevron stripe blanket, but she wanted to put in her own stripes. And so she told me about a website called randomstripes.com, and you can put in your colors. I think this is fabulous for a person who wants it random but can't totally surrender to the random. Anyway, you can put in your colors, and it'll just and how long you want your piece to be. And I don't think it's just necessarily for knitting. It's all kinds of crafts.
Yeah.
And then how big your piece is going to be. And then it'll just randomly make stripes for you. And I'm like, that is brilliant.
Oh, I just went to the website. So, it's cool. It actually shows you what it looks like because you can pick your colors. Mm-hmm. You can pick your colors. And let's see. So I'm picking wisteria and vintage peach and duck egg. So those are it looks like Easter. Okay. That is not a project I think I would really like, although they look good.
Yes.
They looked good separately, but now that I have the color selection showing, it looks like Easter eggs. And then I'm clicking generate stripes. So let's see what I've got. Oh, interesting. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it shows you a picture of what it looks like. And then if you don't like those, I didn't like the one it gave me, so I clicked a different one. And now I've got a different pattern that I like better. And I can just keep clicking and getting different versions of these random stripes.
Yeah.
Cool.
So while the colors may not be exactly what you would pick, there's a lot of colors on there, so you can find something pretty darn close to what you would. So that's for all of those who want to be random but can't be random.
So, okay, you can be random if a website tells you what random is.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah, I think
the link
is
in the show notes if anybody wants to play with it.
Yeah, and then the other thing I just wanted to say, it was really fun. Saturday, let me just back up. On Instagram, I have no idea how I got it, but it showed up in my reels. This coffee and crafting club showed up, and they last month was their first meetup that they had at a coffee shop, and it was so successful. They did it again last Saturday, and this time it was at KEXP, which is one of our public radio stations, and they have an event space for bands to perform, but they also have coffee bar there, and it's at the Seattle Center. And so I went to it, and it was super fun. I would say there was probably over 200 people there.
Wow.
Really, really busy. So busy, half of us were sitting on the floor. There was not enough chairs or anything for people, but that was fine. We just sat around. Anyway, it was super fun. So if people are in the Seattle area and they want to go, they're having one next month, and I think they're always going to have it. Let me read this too, because I think it's the third Sunday of the month. But I don't want to say that out loud. I just said it out loud. I'm sorry. For now, you can go ahead and mark the second Sundays of each month for the Coffee and Crafting Club. So if you go on Instagram and just search Coffee and Crafting Club, you'll find the account and you can follow it to get notifications. But it was fun. And there were lots of knitters, crocheters, people doing embroidery. A lot of people had coloring books. As I say, adult coloring books, but I don't think that really sounds right. What do I want to say?
Yeah.
Those coloring books? I don't know. Yes. Anyway, and people were drawing and all different types of crafts. And,
sorry, I'm just laughing because I'm having images go through my mind of what would be in an adult coloring book of the XXX variety adult.
So I really, there must be some. You must call those there must be a name for those coloring books.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they're just coloring books. I don't know, but yeah, we're calling them adult coloring books.
But not of the XXX variety.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, so it was just a really fun event, and I hope to go next month too. So, and yeah. So that's it for me with projects. I don't really have much more to report on any of my other projects other than I'm going to segue into this. Oh, we have other stuff we need to do. Well,
segue into the out of hibernation along because
of hibernation. So that started February 1st. It goes through June 1st, and it's kind of our spring cleaning of your hibernating projects. Like what's his name? Punxsutawney. What's the
Punxsutawney Phil?
Yes, it's like him. He has to come out into the light. Anyway, hey, Kelly, have you figured out what you're going to take out into the light? Your project?
I actually haven't. So I have 2 project bags in the closet. One has the Niebling doily that I started, and it was a doily that was in pieces, and then you put the pieces together and do an edging. And I have one piece done. And so I have to decide, is the one piece going to be it? Is the one piece going to get edging and that's going to be it? Or am I actually going to commit to the rest of the pieces and put the edging on the doily? So that's one possibility, but I haven't even gotten that out of the cupboard. And then there's something else in there that I don't even remember what it is. Those are 2 potentials for me to dig up and unhibernate. But I haven't, that hasn't passed my radar yet.
Okay.
But what about you?
Well, my project is a shawl that I started. Let me click on this and tell you when I started it. Oh, March 2018. And I was binding off. It's a Picot bind off. And I stopped, I think, halfway through the bind off on the shawl.
So 6 years ago.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm. And and I don't really know why I stopped. I'm completely mystified why I stopped. Yeah. I'm looking at it. It's a 2-color shawl, garters stitch. And I used Hazelnut's Artisan Sock in a gray and Jorstad Creek Cornwall it's called Flamingo. So it's like a pink. Which also, when I say the word pink, I have to say when I was talking about color, I just have to go back and say this. We've had some conversations about this. I am kind of surprised at how much pink and red and orange I have in my projects. And it started because I said I'm going to finish that shawl, and I'm looking at that shawl, and like everything on my page is orange, red, and pink. I have a red sweater. I have an orange hat. I'm knitting on orange socks. I have my tea cozy that has pink in it. I just finished how many yards of pink yarn my hand spun, and I'm knitting, my shawl that I'm weaving, or my project on this that is weaving has a lot of pink and purple in it. So I don't know what's going on with me.
Well, it is a good color on you.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's why I'm doing it. I don't know. But anyway, so that's what I'm going to pull out. And I have other hibernating projects, but I think I want to finish this weaving project. I have to finish it before the end of the weave along. Yeah. So I have till the end of March. And then I want to do a baby outfit. I've got a lot of recommendations from people, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet.
Oh, so that's right. You have baby knitting to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but there's a thread up in the in our discussion thread. There's a thread up for chat and also finished projects.
Actually, just chat.
Oh, just chat.
Yeah,
so far?
because
Okay.
some finished things, some ways that you can participate in the out of hibernation along. One is to bring it back to active status, or you could just frog it and reclaim the yarn because you don't want it anymore. Or you could give the project away. You could throw the project away. You could put the project in the compost. There's lots of things you could do that aren't going to result in a finished thing. So yeah, it's just I just started the one thread, and we'll just use that one thread to just check in about what you're doing.
So it doesn't even have to be a finished thing. You just have to pull it out.
Yeah.
To participate.
Back to active. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, you should finish. Because you only have half a picot bind off.
I know.
But, somebody might have a blanket that they started and there's no way they can finish it by June 1st. I don't want that to stop them from getting that out and getting back to work on it. So maybe, I mean, I could cheat a little bit and call my quilt an out of hibernation because I don't think I've worked on the quilt since summer.
Well, then
the
didn't you start that in high school?
Yeah. I started it in yes. I started it probably I think 1978. Yeah. I think I started it in 1978. Maybe I started it I think I started in 1978. So yeah, but it's been out of hibernation several times and then back. I worked on it a lot in 2019 to get all the squares, all the strips, everything sewn, the top done. And then I put the top and the backing and the quilt batting together last year some point. And I started hand quilting it last summer. And so, I haven't picked it up since last summer. So, how long is hibernation? Does it have to be something you haven't worked on in 6 years? No. It could be something you haven't worked on in 6 months, maybe, something you put away and you just want to get back to it. So it's not, there's not a whole lot of strict rules, but like I can't count my sockhead hat. Oh, I haven't worked on that in 2 days. Okay, I'm going to dig that out of a 2-day hibernation, right? No.
Yeah. There has to be something that you have to look through your closet to find the project, right?
Yeah. I mean, there has to be some
like that. Sort of, yeah.
Something that will really help take the weight off, right? You have a weight of unfinished projects, something that will just take the weight off of something that is make you lighter for the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. All right. I guess the other way of saying is it's something that has to see the light of day.
Yeah.
It hasn't seen the light of day.
Right. like Punxsutawney Phil.
Yeah. Okay. Ravelry tips and tricks.
Yeah. So because I'm going on a trip, I thought I'd just talk just briefly about one of the things that you can do on Ravelry. You may not have seen, or you may have seen. If you click on the Yarns tab in Ravelry, you get a place where you can search different yarns, and you can browse, popular new yarns. But if you go down just a little bit further, you have a local yarn shop directory. And so you can just put in, what city, where are you? And then find yarn shops in the area. Unfortunately, this directory is supposed to pop up a Google Maps, like a little map. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, that's the other one. Never mind. This one might do it too. But anyway, it tells you how many yarn stores are in the area. No, there's no map on the local yarn stores. And then you can select filters like, do they have good do they have parking? Do they have seating? Are they within 10 miles, 20 miles? And so I did that for Orlando. And I found that there were, let's see, what did I find? One shop within 10 miles of my hotel in Orlando when I used the yarn shop directory. And of course I can't, it's not that far, but I can't walk there because you have to use the freeway.
Yeah.
That's all right. I might get there because, again, like I said, there's someone traveling with us who also is a knitter, so we might manage to hit the yarn shop. But then the other thing that I thought was really fun, because I've used the yarn shop, find a yarn shop near this location. I've done that before. But the one that I hadn't used, I hadn't scrolled down far enough to see, there's a thing called a road trip planner. And so you put your starting location and you put your ending location. And this is the one on my browser, Safari, the map is not showing up.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. Mine's not showing up.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of a problem because you might need to adjust the route, right? Because you say the start, you say the end, and it might take you in along a different path than what you want. And then you can drag, just like in Google Maps, you can drag the path to the right, to the right alternative path and get a different list of yarn shops. But when I did this just for fun, I put in Salinas as my starting point and Seattle as my ending point. And I put in, because it also has filters. And so I said within 5 miles of the main route. And I found that there are 57 yarn shops between Salinas and Seattle that are within 5 miles of the main route.
Yes.
So that could be quite a fun little, I don't know how many days it would take to get from Salinas to Seattle and stop at all 57 yarn shops, but that might be kind of fun. Or we could have the goal of, at some point we will have visited all 57 yarn shops on that list. Although the number of yarn shops on the list might change over the years that it would take to actually get that done, but that might be kind of fun the next time one of us is traveling between Salinas and Seattle to just pick one and make the stop.
Yeah, I'm looking at it. Because I'm going to be coming down for Knockers in April, and I'm planning on driving. And the closest to you is Morgan Hill. Yeah,
that's the one we've been to.
A Pop of Color Yarns.
Yes, it used to be called Continental Stitch.
Oh, right.
But it has new ownership. It has new ownership now. But yeah,
Okay.
that's not really on the way if you come. This is where you being able to drag your route. The way you come on I-5,
yes,
and then across Pacheco Pass, you wouldn't go to Morgan Hill. But
yeah,
but you can get around that. Like you could say between Seattle and Santanella, between Santanella and Gilroy, that kind of thing. Break your trip.
Because then it would, because I come
to force it to take
something
you along the right route. But the map isn't working for me. And I know when I did it for a different route, it gave me some yarn shops that weren't on the route that I would take. So I just had to adjust, by looking at the cities in between to make sure it took me, to the particular places on the particular route that I was meaning to go. Mm-hmm. So anyway, just a fun little thing on Ravelry that maybe some people haven't seen or tried. And the route one I hadn't tried before.
So I'm just looking at this. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom because I put in Santanella.
Mm-hmm.
So here I get furthest south. I find a yarn shop now is Rumpelstiltskin in Sacramento.
That makes sense.
Busy Fingers in Reading.
Mm-hmm.
Weston Craft and Sewing Center in Mount Shasta.
Fun.
Oh, I've never heard of this. There's the Paisley Web Studio in Ashland. I know there's Webster's in Ashland, but I didn't realize there's this other one. Oh, there's something in Grants Pass, Roseburg. Oh my! But I have to
say, have a month,
just going
Marsha?
back to, yeah, really. I did not realize. So let me go back, and because I just put in when I first was looking at it is just a shop near me. And it says there's 95 yarn shops near me.
Wow.
Which I'm shocked.
Yeah. I wonder what the radius is.
I don't know what.
Mine says 20.
Yes, I don't know.
Mine says 22.
Okay. Because I have to say, some of the stuff I've never even heard of. So much yarn. I think maybe I've heard of that. Dry Good Designs. And this is Occidental Avenue South, which I believe is down.
Yeah. So mine, the 20, when I go in and look at it, the 22 that are near me are within 80 miles. So you probably need to narrow down the mile in the filters. You'll want to pick, less than so many miles. So, but yeah, it's pretty fun. I have to say that the little tools, the lesser known little tools on Ravelry are super useful, or just fun, like Finished Object Radar, where you can watch people's projects.
Okay, this is interesting. So on Vashon Island, there is Friends Knitting, and also Vashon Pharmacy has yarn.
Vashon Pharmacy.
have to go check
okay.
That. Yeah, we have to go check that out, Kelly. Anyway, very interesting, super fun. Because I think we all do this, is when if I do travel someplace, I often check to see if there's a yarn shop nearby. So we all do that.
I used to always, when I get to the hotel, I would grab the phone book and look in the yellow pages. But I don't even think hotel rooms have phone books anymore.
I don't think they have them anymore. No.
That just goes to show you how long it's been since I've actually traveled. That's not totally true, but I do remember doing that when I used to travel for work. I would always grab the phone book and see. So, all right. Well, I think that's it for today.
That's it. You have a meeting to get to.
I have a meeting to get to.
Well, then I think I'm just going to say goodbye.
Okay. And we'll talk in 2 weeks.
And get back to, and then I have to make my decision. Do I go back and work on the weaving, or do I do my taxes, Kelly? I don't know. People are going to have to wait 2 weeks to find out what I did.
It's a cliffhanger. We're going to leave you with a cliffhanger.
Yeah. All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. To subscribe to the podcast, visit 2usfiberadventures.com.
Join us on our adventures on Ravelry and Instagram. I am Better in Motion, and Kelly is 100 Projects.
Until next time, we're the 2 U's
doing our part for World Fleece.